and I'll share my screen. We were talking behaviorism in the previous session. We talked, نحن ما رح نروح deeply in details because you are familiar with these theories. بدي بس I'm going to focus on their impact in the classroom. We talked about Pavlov. Pavlov talked about the classical conditioning, which means that we give a stimulus in order to get a response. نحن كمان we are interested, this is the classical conditioning. نحن كمان we are interested in Skinner's development of this same theory يلي حكي عن operant conditioning اللي هو الانفرس بيصير. operant conditioning the response comes before the stimulus. هلا أنا I'm interested in the impact in the classroom. Operant conditioning we have to talk about the reinforcement and the punishment. We have two kinds of reinforcement: positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. Positive reinforcement, عندكم فكرة شو هو positive reinforcement؟
Good morning, Dr. عفوا على التأخير.
It's okay, good morning. So, positive reinforcement هو reward that I give to students. هالreward بيكون something that they like. فهيدا بيخلي behavior that I want to increase. يعني for example بالصف العلامة المنيحة بقدر اعتبرها a positive reinforcement. فبيدرسوا منيح للتست، بكون أنا عم عزز لهم هالbehavior، بياخدوا علامة منيحة. أو ممكن بالصفوف الصغيرة يكون الستيمولس أكيد مش العلامة رح يكون. In early elementary for example بحطوا الستار مثلا هيك ستامب بحطوا لهم للستودنتس ستارز على جبينهم أو على إيديهم، كتير بينبسطوا فيهم الأولاد. بكون عم بعطيهم شيء بحبوه أنا a positive reinforcement، بصيروا يكرروا هالبيهيفير يلي أنا عملت أعطيته ريورد لحتى بدي إياه يتكرر. بينما بالنيجاتيف reinforcement شو بتتخيلوا يكون النيجاتيف reinforcement؟ عندكم فكرة شو ممكن يكون؟ هلا in both cases بالبوزيتيف والنيجاتيف عندي reinforcement of the behavior. البوزيتيف قلنا شو هو؟ انه انا عم بعطي reward للستودنتس in order to reinforce a behavior. النيجاتيف شو بتتخيلوا يكون؟
انه مثل
في هيك شيء
قصاص
punishment مثلا مثل
لا البانشمنت شيء ثاني. البانشمنت فكره لوحدها. نحن هون عم نحكي reinforcement، يعني انا كمان بدي اعزز البيهيفير. بالبوزيتيف reinforcement عطيت شيء، بالنيجاتيف reinforcement باخذ شيء من الستودنتس ما بيحبوه. هيدا بيكون شو يعني شيء ما بيحبوه؟ فور اكزامبل مثلا in some schools في عندهم هيك الطريقه انه اذا الستودنتس خلال السنه كان شغلهم كتير منيح وعندهم افريج معين، بيخلوهم انه ما يعملوا الفاينل اكزامز. في مدارس هيك انه اذا جابوا معدل معين خلال السنه بينعفوا من الامتحانات النهائيه. يس هيدا الاعفاء. هيدا الاعفاء شو هو؟ It's a negative reinforcement. ليه مسمينه negative؟ لأنه I'm taking something. هو absence لشيء unpleasant for the students، فهو reinforcement. عفيتهم من الامتحان بس هن ما بيحبوا الامتحان، فإذا it's a reward. operant conditioning في عندي 2 reinforcement، فإذا لعزز a behavior that I want يا positive يا negative. هلا القصاص اللي قلته عنه قبل شوي it's a punishment. ليه بعطي punishment؟ بيكون عندي behavior ما بدي اياه، عكس الرينفورسمنت بكون عم عزز behavior. في behavior ما بدي اياه ف بعطي punishment. هيدا بيصير البانشمنت. هون عم بعطي شيء بس هو unpleasant stimulus, unpleasant for the students. So هودي طريقة استعمال إذا بدكم ال operant conditioning in the class. هون we have explanation. I'm going just to repeat what we have said. Positive reinforcement. You behave in a certain way that results in a reward. As a result, you are more likely to repeat the behavior. We are reinforcing the behavior by giving a reward. This is positive reinforcement. Negative reinforcement. You behave in a certain way that results in the removal of something unpleasant, and as a result, you are more likely to repeat the behavior. مثلا doing a paper early أو أنا مثل ما قلت الإعفاء example. In both cases, negative and positive, something happened that you saw as good, and as a result, so you exhibited the behavior more. عم تشجعوا the behavior that is a good behavior in both cases. بينما punishment, a consequence that follows a behavior that you do so that you do the behavior less often in the future. أنا behavior ما بدي إياه بعطي punishment. هالpunishment أكيد it's not a physical punishment. أكيد لا. Punishment can involve adding something, مثلا paying a fine, staying after school. I'm not with paying a fine. في مدارس بيعتمدوها طريقة
to write
yes
100 times for example.
أي مثلا كمان ما بتفيد بشيء. Yes. هلا staying after school to study مثلا اوكي ماشي الحال. Involve removing something you like مثلا شيء بيحبوه باخدوا منهم مثل بيحرموه من الفرصة مثلا ليعمل a duty أو مثلا ينظف الملعب ينظف الصف بيكون عم يعمل شيء ما بيحب يعمله بس منيح يعني الريزلت بيكون منيح منه. So هيدا بيكون البانشمنت. هلا الكريتيك of behaviorism. Behaviorism focuses more on what we see, on students' behavior. So it does not account for processes taking place in the mind. اللي عم بيصير بعقل الولد ما كتير بفكر فيه، بفكر بس باللي عم شوفه بالobserved behavior. والbehaviorism is usually teacher centered. كل الفوكس بيكون على التيتشر، هو عم يعطي الانفورميشن for students، وبما انه it's teacher centered يعني I have one method given by the teacher for all the students that might not learn the same way. ممكن عندي multiple intelligences بالصف، ممكن عندي students with different backgrounds، بس أنا عم بيجي أعطيهم بنفس الطريقة لأنه behaviorism is teacher centered. Knowledge itself, the focus is on the knowledge, is given and absolute. هيدا النولج بنعطى بطريقة وحدة، هيدي هي تفهموها مثل ما أنا عم بعطيكم إياها. So I program my instruction through lesson planning مثلا، بحط steps in my lesson plan وبيجي بعطيه للصف كله the same way. كيف بعطيه للصف كله in the same way? Usually I break down the skills أو the tasks into small units أو chunks. بيجي بعطي أنا steps صغار، بمشي بالstudents from one step مثل الدرج. if you remember الدرج اللي رسمناه مثل الدرج، بطلع مع الstudents step by step checking students work، وكل الوقت I'll check what are students doing وبعطيهم feedback و encouragement. هيدا هو reinforcement. Behaviorists in general believe that students can be taught best when the focus is directly on the content to be taught. Focus بيكون دايما على الكونتنت، وهيدا الكونتنت is given by the teacher. Direct or teacher-centered instruction, teacher-controlled teaching tend to dominate behavioral classroom. فإذا أنا if I want to summarize, I can say there are two teaching approaches to mathematics that we are interested in. اللي هن behavioral and constructivist. Behavioral approach أو behaviorism refers to the theory where learning is focused on external events جاية من برا من التيتشر as the cause of changes in observable behavior. فإذا a change in students behavior is caused by external events. شو يعني by external events؟ يعني by what the teacher is giving. يعني the learning occurs from either classical conditioning اللي بيعني انه any stimulus provided will lead to a response، او operant اللي حكينا عنه conditioning اللي هو بيجي لعندي بيعمل الريسبونس، وهالريسبونس اللي هو البيهيفير انا either I strengthen it by reinforcement او I weaken it by punishment. So students in the behaviorist based classrooms are taught in a teacher-centered lessons أو إذا بدكم direct instruction. بهيدي الحالة students tend more to learn the procedural content not the conceptual content. بيتعلموا أكتر، ممكن أكتر، في tendency أكتر if you want to learn the procedure more than the content. هلا بالعكس هلا هيدي الثيوري بالconstructivism students are more engaged in their lessons in constructing their new knowledge and understanding. Here the knowledge will develop through having a context that will allow the students to be more relevant to what is going on, and it will be more meaningful to them. So we can define the constructivist approach if you want as إذا بدكم student-centered مش teacher-centered مثل behaviorism. The focus in constructivism we can summarize and say it is focused on the individual, يعني on the student as an active agent in the construction of the knowledge or the mathematical knowledge. So هون التيتشر ما بيعود هو السنتر أو الفوكس أو teacher will not deliver the information as in behaviorism. Here the teacher becomes just a facilitator for students to more understand. So عندي هودي الاثنين theories أكثر شيء ممكن نشوفهم in classrooms. هيدي المين ideas أنا قلتهم على السريع. طيب in the remaining time I'm going to give you، أنا حطيت هون لحظة شوي بالتيمز here in the files comparison of two classrooms في document title له comparison of two classrooms. في عندي اثنين situations in both classrooms the same content is taught but in two different ways. So in the following we have two fourth grade classrooms. Students have already reviewed double digit addition and subtraction. عم قلكم شو بيعرفوا الطلاب previous knowledge, computation, and have been working on multiplication concepts and facts. They master، بينت عندكم هلا بتفتحوه عندكم انتم مشان تقروه على رواق. They mastered most of their multiplication facts by the end of the third grade, but as a part of an extension the students have used context embedded in story problems. They are also illustrating how repeated addition can be related to the number of rows of square tiles within a rectangle. بيعرفوا المultiplication، هو الchapter is about multiplication here. هن بيعرفوا المultiplication as repeated addition، وبيعرفوا المultiplication as the area model. محل ما بيكون في عنا مثلا a rectangle divided into 4 columns و 5 rows، كم تايل بيكون عندي بقلبه؟ 5 times 4. فبيعرفوا هيدا الاريز. These students' combined experiences from grade 3 and grade 4 have resulted in a collection of ideas about tens and ones, an understanding of the meaning of multiplication, a variety of number strategy for mastering multiplication facts based on the properties of the operations, and a connection between multiplication and arrays and area. فإذا كل هيدا الباراجراف عم بيقول لي إنه students have mastered all the needed knowledge about multiplication as repeated addition, as area model, بيعرفوا the properties of multiplication. هلا بدهم يتعلموا multiplication of 2-digit numbers بهيدي الساعة اللي جاية. You have to read the situations in each classroom, in both classrooms, and compare them by discussing. Who determines the procedure to use in each class? What are the learning goals in each class? How students are learning mathematics in each class? هلا هيدا السؤال أنا ممكن أسأله بامتحان بس بيكون التكست أصغر. هون التو situations شي 4 صفحات بيطلعوا. ممكن أنا أعطيكم بالامتحان 2 situations كمان that you have to compare and analyze بس أكيد بيكونوا قد الوقت يلي منعطى. So هلا رح أعطيكم بعتقد 20 minutes بكفوا. Take 20 minutes, read the 2 situations and please try to answer the following 3 points. مين اللي عم بيحدد what procedure to use in each class؟ وشو الobjective in each session؟ وكيف عم يتعلموا الطلاب؟ بأي طريقة بكل صف؟ تقدروا تفتحوه عندكم للdocument. هلا 10:03 10:40 I will go back to you. Okay? إذا حدا عنده مشكل ما فتح عنده إذا عندكم مشكل وما عم يفتح الدوكيومنت please tell me. Okay, were you able to read the document, all the document? Hello. Are you able to hear me? سامعيني أو لا؟
ايه دكتور السماء.
Okay.
Yes, doctor, I'm hearing you.
Okay. Did you read the document, all the document?
Yes, doctor, we read it.
Okay, great. Let's discuss the differences between the two classes. First of all, let's talk about who determines the procedure to use in each class. Who can answer?
The teacher.
In both classes?
In classroom 1,
A.
student
The class
determine the
one
procedure.
student.
طيب فاطمة. In classroom 2?
The teacher determines the procedure.
Okay.
There is only
But
one
if you
procedure.
Okay, great. If you are writing your response in an exam, إذا أنت you are going to answer this question in an exam, لازم تعطي بعد شوي details أكتر من هيك. You are right. In the first classroom, the students هن اللي قرروا which procedure to use، بس بدك تشرحي كيف. يعني بدك تعطي شوية explanation. و in the second classroom, the teacher chose the procedure بس كمان you have to give some details. يعني كلكم do you all agree with what Fatima said إنه the first classroom the students were free to choose their procedure and in the second one the teacher told them how to work? Do you all agree?
Yes.
Yes, doctor.
Okay. فإذا in the first classroom إذا برجع للتكست أنا I'm going back to the text. Let's look شو عم بيصير here. Okay. The students quickly agree that adding up هون كنت عم تعطيهم بعدها example. هون okay. Students offer 4 ideas after working together. أول group we sliced one row off the bottom. The top part is 5 by 8, so 40 tiles. 40 plus the 8 tiles صاروا 48 tiles. هيدا أول procedure. تاني procedure, we cut the rectangle in half top to bottom. Each smaller rectangle is 6 by 4, 24 and 24, 48. So هيدا another procedure. The third group, our strategy was the same idea, but we sliced the rectangle in half the other way and got 3 times 8, 24, then doubled it to get 48. So we have several procedures. So we can say that each group looks at the numbers in the problem, think about the relationships يمكن between the numbers, then chooses a computational strategy based on what they prefer, based on their previous knowledge about numbers. يمكن يكون في حدا ناسي شيء من المultiplication يروح على different numbers. So they developed several different strategies to solve the multiplication problem by taking numbers apart and putting them together differently by using various representations. كل مرة عملوا different cuts such as arrays and area models and thinking about connections between addition and multiplication. This is in the first classroom. So بهذا الصف the students were able to choose the procedure that they prefer. بينما in the second classroom مثل ما قلتوا yes.
يعني أنا بقول إنه هن they were free to choose the procedure since they offer 4 different ideas.
Yes,
And
different.
they were able to develop strategies using various representation. هذا الشيء كافي بالسؤال.
Yes, exactly. Based on their prior knowledge, you can add also. هلا in the second classroom, the teacher here, you can notice that the teacher gives one strategy for the students. دلتهم شو بدهم يعملوا. Okay, so in the second classroom, the teacher provides one strategy of how to multiply, اللي هو the standard algorithm. In fact, she was teaching them the algorithm. So علمتهم على الطريقة, and next they applied what, يعني they imitated what the teacher has done. هلا نحن بدنا نعلم at the end the standard algorithm أكيد، بس مش التيتشر بده يمشيهم هيك step by step. They have to explore it also. ما أخذ بتاني class ideas from the students. The teacher يعني didn't take إذا مذكرة منيح أنا اللي قريته، ما كان عندي groups عم يعرضوا شو عملوا، صح؟ غير أول صف. يعني students were only students were only following the teacher's direction.
Of the teacher.
Yes بالضبط. طيب هيدا about the procedure. The second question شو كان what were the learning goals of each classroom? The objectives بكل صف. Are they similar? Do we have the same objectives? What do you think? Learning objectives, I mean. كان الهدف يفهموا نفس الأوبجكتيف بالصفين كان؟ Yes.
It is about multiplication.
Yes. Multiplication of multi-digit numbers أو two-digit numbers بهيدي الحالة.
So it is the same.
Okay. So as instructional objective, I can say that we have the same objective in both classrooms. We have the same objective, مش هيك؟ بس we have different methods. لأنه in the first classroom, instructional objective is the same, but the teacher's goal, if you want, was that the students connect multiplication to their prior knowledge, to what they already know. بينما in the second classroom, كل previous knowledge was connected to develop how to develop the algorithm. بس the instructional objective was the same أكيد. Okay. But what can I say about how the students were learning in each class? لتجاوبوا على هيدا السؤال مفروض ترجعوا
sharing ideas by the classmates.
Yes, you have to use your prior knowledge also about learning. يعني نحن in that chapter we discussed different types of understanding, if you want, relational, instrumental, teaching for understanding. You have to use this information in your analysis. What can you see? بأول صف, was it teaching for understanding? شو رأيكم? Was it relational or instrumental understanding?
I guess it was relational with the addition.
Yes, can you explain please?
When we said that 6 times 8, 6 multiplying by 8 is adding 8 6 times, then we are using addition.
طيب يعني شو هيدي الاديشن؟ The prior knowledge.
Yes.
اوكي وما عطونا
use
كلهم
the
the same
prior
answer. كل حدا نقى الارقام الاسهل لإله. يعني I can say that in the first classroom students إذا بدكم each student solves in his own way. They started from where they are. محل ما هن موجودين كفوا لحتى يكتشفوا شيء جديد. يعني كل حدا اشتغل at his own pace based on his prior knowledge. عشان هيك طلع عنا several strategies. هيدا this makes the task more accessible for the majority of the students. وكمان في شغلة تانية، هيدي هالconnection مع ال previous knowledge إذا بتتذكروا the blue and the red dots عم يعملوا connection كانوا مع previous knowledge. شو بيعرفوا قبل عملوا a lot of connections between the dots. وكمان when each group presented its work, كل students had the opportunity to observe several strategies and develop new and better ways to solve the problem. هيدا الابروتش اللي مشي بهيدا الصف requires that the students rather than the teacher do the thinking. So the teaching in this classroom, or the understanding, if I want to say, the understanding in this classroom was a relational one. طيب in the second classroom كان عندي هالopportunity for several strategies؟ لا، قلنا جاوبنا انه لا. So in the second classroom everyone has to do the problem in the same way. كلهم اشتغلوا نفس الشيء. يعني the students didn't have the opportunity to apply ideas or to see that there are numerous ways to solve the problem. ما خلينا ال students to start from where they are. ما عطينا opportunities for the students to connect ليعملوا الconnection بين ال red dot وال blue dots اللي هن ال previous knowledge. So كل الوقت students in the second classroom use the same method to multiply all numbers instead of looking for several ways to multiply based on the relationship between numbers. مشيوا على ال steps given by the teacher. And so كانت ال understanding in the second classroom tends to be more instrumental. ليه؟ لأن in the first classroom قلنا إنه student generated their strategies and multiple approaches، بينما in the second classroom كان عنا the same method. هلا in both classrooms بالصفين يمكن ال students لقوا طريقة to do the multiplication بس they were doing mathematics in different ways. لأنه when I say understanding and doing mathematics I should have relational understanding. I should have several strategies for solving problems and applying those approaches to see whether we will have a correct solution or not, to check if the answers make sense or not. So all the activities كانوا present in the first classroom but not in the second. So I can say that students in the first classroom تعلموا in a relational way بينما they developed the concept. بينما I can say in the second classroom students developed more the procedure. طيب لما تقروا الدرس أكتر بيصير عندكم ability أكتر، بيصير عندكم طيب إذا بدي قبل ما أقول هيدي الفكرة، if I want to rely what was going on in both classes to the learning theories, what do you think? Based on which theory each of the classrooms proceeded? The first classroom.
Constructivism.
Yes.
and the second
في
one
يقول شيء غير الكونستراكتيفيزم كمان أكثر واضح أكثر إنه social constructivist. ليه؟ لأنه students were working together. They were working together and discussing ideas. So I can go to the social constructivist theory أكثر. In the second classroom,
sociocultural theory.
in the first one or in the second one?
Second one.
The second one, why are you saying sociocultural theory?
Because the teacher is guiding them to use
ايه شو سميناها هيدي؟
behaviorism.
Sorry, behaviorism. Sorry.
Yes, behaviorism. You are right. It's behaviorism لأنه the teacher is guiding them all the way to solve the problem, showing all the steps. So بعد ما تقروا الدرس كتير منيح، إذا عطيتكم هيك سؤال بامتحان, you should be able to do the analysis, and it's very important. It's very important. يعني إذا في حدا بهيدا الصف مرق عندي قبل بمرة بيعرف إنه you have to use the technical words. الكلمات التكنيكال words اللي عم نستعملها you have to use them. أسماء الثيوريز مثلا understanding whether it is relational or instrumental. بدكم تستعملوا هود terms that we defined during the lesson. كل الاناليسز that you are going to do will be based on the information that you got from the lesson. اوكي؟ هلا اكيد ما رح يكون، نحن قلنا نهار الجمعه رح نعمل هيك simple test، ما رح يكون معقد بس رح يكون analysis اكيد، ما رح يكون course. رح يمرق سؤال بيشبه هيدا السؤال كمان اكيد.
دكتور
Yes.
في solution for this activity.
بدكم ابعث لكم اللي كنا عم نحكيه يعني مكتوب؟
Please دكتور.
طيب اوكي، at the end of the day برجع بحط انا document جديد مع السوليوشن. اوكي، بس اعطوني وقت لاخر النهار، عندي كل نهار تعليم.
اوكي دكتور، ثانك يو.
طيب فاذا نحن نهار الجمعه كنت عم بعمل ريكوردينج، انا نسيت. ايه يس، نهار الجمعه لكان بنعمل التيست، راح يكون معكم 1 hour يعني 60 minutes راح يكونوا لكم كلهم. Let me download the attendance list and see you on Friday إن شاء الله. باي باي.
Bye.
يعطيك العافية دكتور.